The sun rose over the wide city of Lyran, casting long orange streaks across the silver buildings. The capital planet was alive with movement. Hovercars zipped between towers and people hurried along the glowing walkways. Among the crowd, a small group gathered near the royal training arena. The arena was a huge open space made of smooth stone and metal. It was where the royal family trained their warriors and where new students were tested in skill, speed, and courage. Today, the arena would witness something unusual, though no one knew it yet. Ethan Miller stepped quietly into the arena. He was a human, sent from Earth as part of a diplomatic exchange. Humans were rare on Lyran, and they were not usually seen as strong or dangerous. Ethan looked around nervously. The arena was filled with aliens, most of them taller and stronger than he was. Some had 4 arms, others had claws or scales, and one even had shimmering wings that caught the sunlight. The crowd in the stands cheered and whispered. Some of them were excited to see a human trainee, others were curious but doubtful. Ethan adjusted the strap of his training gear and took a deep breath. He had trained for years, but he knew that compared to these aliens, he looked small and weak. Princess Lila sat on her high throne at the side of the arena. Her golden hair sparkled in the morning sun, and her eyes glimmered with mischief. She loved to watch the trainees struggle. She enjoyed pointing out mistakes and making fun of anyone who looked uncertain. Today, her attention turned to Ethan. She leaned forward, a smile on her face, and called out, "Look at the human. I hope he doesn't trip over his own feet." Her voice carried across the arena. Some of the other trainees laughed. Ethan ignored the whispers and laughter. He had learned long ago not to react to insults. He had also learned to watch carefully. From the moment he stepped into the arena, he observed how the aliens moved. Their steps were heavy but calculated, their strikes precise. Even their mistakes were controlled. Ethan's eyes followed every movement. He noticed patterns in their attacks and defenses, small tells that would help him if he ever had to respond. The first drill began. The trainees were paired up to practice combat. Ethan was assigned to a tall alien named Corin, whose skin was dark green and tough like armor. Corin laughed when he saw Ethan. "You are too small to fight me," he said, flexing his arms. "Stay out of my way, human." Ethan simply nodded. He waited, keeping his balance and focusing on Corin's movements. Corin attacked first. He swung a heavy staff toward Ethan with surprising speed. Most humans would have been hit immediately. Ethan ducked and rolled to the side, letting the staff pass. Corin's eyes widened. He swung again, but Ethan was already moving. Every step Ethan took seemed careful but quick, almost like he had already planned the next 10 moves. He dodged, blocked, and countered with small strikes that, though not powerful, disrupted Corin's rhythm. The other trainees watched in surprise. They had expected the human to fail quickly. Princess Lila laughed at first, but then her smile faltered slightly. Ethan moved with a calmness she had not expected. He was not clumsy or nervous. He was focused. Every movement seemed deliberate, and he never wasted energy. Corin grew frustrated. He swung harder, trying to push Ethan back. Ethan didn't move recklessly. He used Corin's own strength against him. When Corin overextended, Ethan stepped in and tapped a pressure point on his arm, making him stumble. The crowd gasped. Even some of the aliens whispered to each other, impressed by the human's skill. After the drill, Ethan stepped back. He was not tired, but he was cautious. He knew this was only the beginning. Princess Lila called out from her throne. "Well, human, I suppose you can survive a little, but don't get too proud. This is only a simple drill." Ethan nodded politely. He did not argue or try to boast. He understood that pride could be dangerous, especially here. The next test was more difficult. The arena shifted. Panels of the floor rose and fell, creating obstacles. Machines that looked like giant insects crawled toward the trainees, testing their speed and reflexes. Ethan looked around. Some trainees panicked and ran in all directions, stumbling over the moving platforms. Others attacked the machines head-on and were quickly pushed aside. Ethan stayed calm. He took small, careful steps, using his agility to avoid the machines. When one machine lunged at him, he grabbed a nearby pole and swung around it, knocking the machine off balance. A few of the other trainees stared in disbelief. Princess Lila's laughter was less confident now. She had expected the human to struggle. Instead, he seemed to be learning and adapting faster than anyone else. "Interesting," she muttered to herself. She leaned forward. Maybe the human is not as weak as I thought. But she would not admit it aloud yet. She still wanted to see if he would fail under real pressure. The final part of the drill was a team exercise. Ethan was placed in a group with 3 other trainees. Their task was to capture a glowing orb in the center of the arena while avoiding attacks from both the machines and the other teams. The other trainees groaned. They did not want to work with the human. They thought he would slow them down. Ethan, however, quietly observed the arena, noting where the machines moved fastest and where the other teams were weakest. When the exercise began, chaos erupted. Trainees rushed in different directions, shouting and swinging their weapons. Ethan moved with purpose. He dodged attacks and helped guide his teammates. At first, the aliens in his group ignored him, but as the exercise progressed, they noticed how effective he was. He blocked incoming strikes, redirected the machines, and even retrieved the orb from a difficult spot, surprising both his teammates and the opposing team. By the end of the exercise, his group had captured the orb with little damage, while many other teams struggled to survive. Princess Lila watched with her arms crossed. She was impressed despite herself. This human, who had seemed so small and weak, had shown intelligence, skill, and courage, but she was not ready to admit defeat. She decided to taunt him one last time. She raised her voice, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Well, human, you got lucky this time. I wonder if you can survive the next challenge without getting eaten alive." Some of the trainees laughed, and a few whispered that she was harsh. Ethan looked at her and smiled faintly. He did not answer. He understood that actions spoke louder than words. As the sun climbed higher, the drills ended. Ethan was exhausted but not defeated. He had survived attacks that would have overwhelmed most humans, and he had earned the quiet respect of a few alien trainees. Princess Lila left the arena, her curiosity about the human growing. She could not shake the feeling that there was something unusual about him, something that might surprise even her in the days to come. The crowd dispersed, talking about the human who had held his own against the strongest trainees. Some whispered about how clever he was, others about his courage. Ethan walked slowly, thinking about what he had learned. He knew that this was only the beginning. Lyran was a dangerous place, full of warriors, hunters, and unpredictable challenges. But he also knew that humans had strengths that were often underestimated, strengths that could turn the tide when no one expected it. As the city quieted down for the evening, Ethan sat in a small training room reviewing his moves. He traced the patterns of Koran's attacks, the machine's movements, and the other trainees' mistakes. He understood that learning was as important as fighting. Even a human could survive in a world filled with giants if he used his mind, speed, and strategy. Princess Lila, meanwhile, paced in her private chambers. She could not stop thinking about the human apprentice, his calmness, his precision, his courage. It all felt unusual, almost dangerous. She decided to keep a closer eye on him. Perhaps he would fail eventually, but perhaps he would not. And if he did not fail, she would have to reconsider everything she thought she knew about humans. That night, the city of Lyran slept under a sky full of stars. The arena was quiet now, but the story of the human who had survived the drills would spread quickly. Some would doubt him, Some would admire him, and some, like Princess Lila, would watch him closely, wondering what he was truly capable of. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan Miller smiled quietly. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, and new opportunities to prove that even a human could stand tall among the universe's strongest warriors. The next morning, the arena of Lyran was alive again. This time, the sun shone brighter, reflecting off the metallic walls and the polished floors. Trainees gathered, stretching their limbs and adjusting their gear. Today's exercises were different. They were not simple drills or obstacle courses. Today, they would face tests designed to push them to the limits of skill, speed, and courage. Even the most experienced trainees had a quiet tension in their voices. Ethan Miller stepped into the arena with quiet confidence. His muscles were sore from the previous day, but his mind was sharp. He had spent the night reviewing his moves, thinking about what worked and what did not. He knew today would be harder. Princess Lila's eyes were already on him, her golden hair shining under the morning light. Her expression was serious. She had watched him survive the drills yesterday and had started to wonder if the human might be more than he seemed. Today, the exercises will test more than strength, Lila announced. Her voice carried across the arena. You will face opponents you cannot predict and obstacles you cannot control. Only those who are truly prepared will survive. A hush fell over the crowd. Even the aliens who were strong and fast looked uneasy. Ethan simply nodded and adjusted his gear. He did not speak. He understood that this test would measure more than physical power. It would measure strategy, observation, and courage. The first challenge began. The arena transformed. Platforms rose and fell, walls shifted, and bright lights flashed across the floors. Mechanical beasts crawled from hidden compartments. Some had claws that could cut metal, others had spikes that could pierce armor. The trainees gasped and moved quickly. Many humans and smaller aliens would have panicked, but Ethan stayed calm. He analyzed the patterns. He watched how the mechanical beasts moved, where their weaknesses might be, and how the other trainees reacted. A tall alien named Jorak charged at him with a heavy blade. He expected Ethan to stumble, but the human sidestepped with ease. Jorak's blade struck the floor, sending sparks flying. Ethan grabbed a nearby pole and vaulted over Jorak, landing behind him. With a quick push, he unbalanced Jorak and sent him tumbling onto a platform. Some trainees whispered in surprise. They had underestimated him again. The mechanical beasts moved faster. One lunged at Ethan, its claws snapping. He rolled to the side and grabbed a floating energy ball from the arena floor. With precise aim, he tossed it, hitting the machine's sensor and causing it to freeze. The crowd gasped. Even the other trainees began to notice that Ethan was not just surviving, he was controlling the battlefield. Princess Lila watched carefully. Her amusement from yesterday was gone. She leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "Interesting," she muttered. "He does not fight like a human. He does not fight like anyone I have seen." She noticed how Ethan's movements were small but calculated, how he anticipated attacks before they happened. His calmness was unusual. Most beings, no matter how skilled, showed fear or hesitation in such chaos. Ethan did not. The next phase of the exercise was a team battle. Groups were formed and tasked with capturing a glowing crystal from the center of the arena while defending their own base. Ethan was paired with two aliens, Nira and Talon. At first, they were skeptical. "The human will slow us down," Talon whispered. Nira nodded. "He might be clever, but he is still weak." Ethan simply smiled faintly and said nothing. He knew that actions mattered more than words. The exercise began. Chaos erupted immediately. Trainees ran in all directions, shouting and swinging their weapons. The mechanical beasts continued to roam, attacking anyone in their path. Ethan moved carefully. He avoided unnecessary risks and used his agility to navigate the arena. When a mechanical beast lunged at Talon, Ethan quickly intercepted, knocking the creature off balance and giving Talon time to retreat. Nira watched in surprise. "He is fast," she said quietly. "Not just fast, smart." Ethan noticed the other teams. Some tried to attack aggressively, some moved too slowly. He calculated the safest and most effective path to the crystal. When they reached the center, he saw an opening. He dashed forward, dodging attacks and traps, and grabbed the crystal. A few trainees attempted to block him, but he used their own momentum against them, sending them sliding past him. He returned to his team, crystal in hand, and placed it in their base. The arena erupted with whispers. Trainees and spectators alike were shocked. A human had not only survived, but had dominated a complex battle against larger, stronger opponents. Princess Lila's lips pressed together. She had expected the human to fail, but he had not. He had proven skill, strategy, and courage beyond anything she had imagined. After the exercise, Ethan stepped aside to catch his breath. Sweat dripped down his forehead and his muscles ached. But he felt a quiet satisfaction. He had proven that humans could think and act faster than many larger, stronger beings. His mind and body were tools, and he had learned to use them efficiently. Princess Lila approached him quietly. "You did well today," she said, her tone neutral but her eyes sharp. "Better than I expected." Ethan nodded politely. "Thank you, Princess," he replied. He did not smile too broadly. He knew better than to show too much pride. Lila studied him for a moment, then walked away, her thoughts turning inward. She had underestimated this human. It was clear now that he was more than a simple apprentice. He had potential. Dangerous, unpredictable potential. The next challenge was announced. It was a survival test. The arena would simulate a dangerous environment full of traps, moving walls, and hidden predators. Trainees had to reach the other side within a set time limit. Anyone who failed would be eliminated from the day's exercises. Most trainees looked nervous. Many whispered to each other about how difficult it would be. Ethan listened quietly and observed. He had faced chaos before, and he knew that staying calm and thinking ahead was more important than brute strength. When the survival test began, the arena shifted again. Walls rose and fell unpredictably, panels of the floor moved like waves, and mechanical predators stalked the trainees. Some ran in panic and fell into traps. Others tried to fight the predators but were quickly overwhelmed. Ethan moved with care. He observed the patterns, predicted the predators' movements, and used the shifting platforms to his advantage. He even helped a few aliens avoid traps, earning quiet nods of respect. Halfway through the arena, a massive mechanical predator appeared. It was taller than any trainee and moved faster than expected. Trainees froze in fear, but Ethan did not. He watched carefully and saw a small weak point in the predator's design. Using a metal rod from the arena, he struck the weak point at the right moment. Sparks flew, and the predator froze. The other trainees stared, amazed that a human had managed to stop it without heavy weapons or armor. Princess Lila's eyes widened. She had never seen anyone, human or alien, move with such calm precision under pressure. She realized that the human's strength was not just in his body, but in his mind. He could observe, analyze, and act with perfect timing. The apex hunters, the galaxy's most feared warriors, might not even handle him well, she thought. When the survival test ended, Ethan reached the finish line with only minor scratches. Many trainees arrived later, exhausted and defeated. Princess Lila descended to the arena floor. "I will admit it," she said, her voice quiet but serious. "You are different. You are not weak. But do not think that this means you are safe. The next challenges will test more than your skill. They will test your courage, your patience, and your mind. Do not fail." Ethan bowed politely. "I understand, Princess." As the crowd dispersed, whispers about the human apprentice grew louder. Trainees and spectators discussed how small he was, but how strong and clever he had proven to be. Some doubted his abilities, thinking today's success was luck. Others began to wonder if humans might be underestimated across the galaxy. Ethan walked back to his quarters quietly. He had learned much today, but he also knew that the challenges ahead would be harder. Lyran was not a forgiving place. Stronger opponents, faster machines, and unpredictable obstacles would await him. But he was ready. He had survived chaos, outsmarted predators, and earned the respect of those around him. He knew that courage, strategy, and patience could make even a small human a force to be reckoned with. Princess Lila, alone in her chambers, stared out at the city. She could not stop thinking about Ethan. His calmness, skill, and intelligence were unusual for a human. She realized that she had misjudged him. He was not a weak apprentice. He was a human who could survive, adapt, and even outthink beings far stronger than himself. And that thought both intrigued and worried her. Night fell over Lyran, and the city lights sparkled like stars on the ground. Ethan reviewed the day's exercises in his mind. He thought about every move, every opponent, and every machine he had faced. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, and he would need to be sharper, faster, and smarter. But he also felt ready. Humans might be underestimated, but he had already shown that courage, skill, and strategy could make them stand tall, even among the galaxy's fiercest warriors. And somewhere in the quiet of the palace, Princess Lila whispered to herself, "We will see what he is truly capable of. He may be small, but perhaps he is not to be ignored." The next day, the arena of Lyran was filled with a tense energy. Today was different from the drills of the previous days. Today, the instructors had promised a real test, a survival challenge that would simulate the dangers of an enemy attack. Even the strongest trainees were nervous. Whispers of fear spread among the group as they waited for the doors of the arena to open. Ethan Miller entered quietly. His muscles were sore from the past 2 days, but his mind was sharp. He had learned to observe, plan, and act under pressure. He had already survived mechanical beasts, chaotic obstacles, and skilled alien trainees. But he knew this would be a true test of courage, skill, and quick thinking. Princess Lila was seated at her usual spot on the high platform, her eyes fixed on him. Her amusement from earlier had faded. Now she watched with sharp curiosity. She had begun to suspect that Ethan was more than an ordinary human. The doors to the arena opened, and a strange, artificial storm filled the space. Fog rolled across the floors, and red and blue lights flashed unpredictably. The walls shifted and moved as if alive. Trainees gasped as they saw shadowy shapes moving in the fog, predators simulated to be faster, stronger, and more cunning than any trainee. The instructors had designed this challenge to push every trainee to their limits, and most looked worried. Ethan moved carefully. He stayed low, scanning the arena. He could barely see the shadowy figures through the fog, but he had learned to rely on instinct as much as sight. The first predator attacked. It was tall, covered in metal plating, and had glowing eyes. It lunged at a nearby alien trainee who screamed and stumbled backward. Ethan didn't panic. He waited, watching the predator's movement. He noticed a pattern in its steps, a slight delay before it struck. Using that delay, he rolled to the side and pushed the predator, sending it into a wall. Sparks flew, and it froze for a moment, giving other trainees time to escape. Princess Lila leaned forward. She had expected chaos, but Ethan's calmness was striking. While others ran or froze in fear, he analyzed and acted. She whispered to herself, "He is not just fast. He is precise. His mind works differently." The predators multiplied. Shadows moved in every direction, lunging at trainees without warning. Some were crushed, some were trapped, and some managed to dodge by luck. Ethan moved like water. He dodged, rolled, and used the arena itself to his advantage. When one predator lunged at him from above, he grabbed a loose pipe, swung, and sent it crashing into a nearby wall. Sparks and smoke filled the air, and the predator was disabled temporarily. Other trainees stared in disbelief. They had never seen a human move with such calm skill. Some began to follow Ethan's movements quietly, copying how he predicted the predator's attacks. Princess Lila's eyes narrowed. She realized that he had not only survived but had learned how to control the battle. She could feel a mix of fear and fascination. Halfway through the arena, a new challenge appeared. A massive creature, taller than any trainee, dropped from the ceiling. Its eyes glowed red, and its claws could cut metal. The creature's roar echoed through the arena, sending shivers down the spines of even the bravest trainees. Everyone froze. Some tried to attack, but the creature was too fast and too strong. Several aliens were thrown across the platforms, groaning in pain. Ethan didn't hesitate. He studied the creature, moving quietly to a safe distance. He noticed the joints in its legs and the way it shifted weight before striking. He realized that the creature's strength could be used against it. When it lunged, he rolled under its claw and struck a small, weak point behind its knee. The creature stumbled, crashing into the arena floor. Ethan followed with precise strikes, using the environment to trap and slow it down. The crowd gasped. Even the strongest alien trainees were impressed. A human, small, weak-looking, was holding his own against a creature that could crush most warriors. Princess Lila's hands tightened around the edge of her platform. She could not take her eyes off him. "He is extraordinary," she whispered. "No human should be able to do this." She had always believed humans were clever but fragile. Ethan was proving her wrong in every way. The final part of the survival test required the trainees to reach a high platform across the arena while the predators were still active. The platform was narrow, with moving floors and spinning obstacles. Many trainees hesitated. Some were knocked off the edges, falling into the fog below. Ethan moved carefully. He timed his steps with precision, jumping and rolling to avoid traps. When a shadow predator lunged at him from behind, he pivoted and used its momentum to fling it into a wall. When he finally reached the platform, he paused and looked down. Many trainees were still struggling below. Some were injured, some were trapped, and some had given up. Ethan did not gloat. He knew that winning the test was not about showing off. It was about surviving, helping where possible, and learning from every moment. Princess Lila descended from her platform to watch him more closely. "Human," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Your skill is unusual. You do not fight like a normal human. You do not fight like anyone I have seen. Tell me, what drives you? Courage, luck, or something else?" Ethan looked at her, his eyes steady. "I do not rely on luck," he said simply. "I rely on observation, training, and understanding. I do not fight to show off. I fight to survive and to learn." The princess studied him. She realized that she had underestimated humans for too long. Their physical strength might be less than some aliens, but their mind, courage, and adaptability were unmatched. She felt a mixture of respect and worry. A human who thought and acted like Ethan could change everything. As the sun set over Lyran, the arena cleared. Trainees were exhausted, bruised, and shaken. Many whispered about the human who had faced predators, mechanical beasts, and massive creatures without fear. Some of the aliens had begun to follow his example quietly, realizing that size and strength were not everything. Ethan returned to his quarters, sitting quietly to rest. His body ached, but his mind was alive with thought. He reviewed every predator, every obstacle, and every movement. He understood that the challenges would grow even harder. Lyran was full of danger, and the instructors were clever, but he was ready. Humans had a unique advantage. They could think, adapt, and use intelligence in ways that many stronger beings could not. Princess Lila stayed in her chambers late into the night. She could not stop thinking about Ethan. He had survived challenges that had crushed many seasoned trainees. His calmness, his precision, and his intelligence were extraordinary. She realized that humans might not be weak at all. If they were underestimated, they could become the most dangerous opponents. She felt a strange mix of admiration and fear. That night, the city of Lyran was quiet under the glow of countless stars. Ethan lay on his bed, thinking about the survival test. He knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, more difficult than anything he had faced. But he was ready. Every obstacle, every predator, every unexpected strike had taught him something new. He understood that humans could survive where others might fail. Courage, intelligence, and observation were tools as sharp as any weapon. Somewhere in the royal palace, Princess Lila whispered to herself, "The human is small, but he is not to be ignored. I wonder how far he can go." Ethan drifted to sleep, unaware that his actions today had begun to change the way the royal court, and even the galaxy, would see humanity. The quiet apprentice, who had once been mocked, was beginning to show the universe that humans could face danger with courage, skill, and intelligence unmatched by many of the strongest beings in existence.